Hi, I'm Constanze Itzel, curator and project leader at the House of European History. In this recording, I'm going to take a closer look at a selection of objects representing negotiations in European history and explore their relevance in the light of contemporary challenges. Negotiations have played a vital role in European history. Europe is even considered by many as the cradle of the culture of multilateral cooperation. Why? Well, in the Middle Ages, diplomacy was used to solve immediate problems rather than to forge continuous links. Permanent resident embassies were established in the Italian city-state system of the late 15th century. Subsequently, the French system of diplomacy was developed, which became the basis of the bilateral systems used today. Negotiating, which was a term used before the word diplomacy was invented, is given a prominent place in the series of interactions chosen for the House of European History's first temporary exhibition. In our exhibition, we look at the development of multilateral negotiation practices over time, from sporadic diplomatic contacts to regular peace conferences, the Concert of Europe, and to permanent international organizations. Even if the format of multilateral negotiations changed and evolved, challenges were similar to today, such as the intercultural issues of organizing decision-making in multiple languages with large numbers of participants, who all have differing objectives. Let's take a closer look at one of these examples and its accompanying objects, the Peace of Westphalia. The 17th century featured a new kind of multilateral meeting, when the main warring parties of the 30 Years' War came together in the German cities of Münster and Osnabrück to negotiate a peace. This congress eventually led to the signing of treaties, called the Peace of Westphalia, which ended the 30 Years' War in the Holy Roman Empire and the 80 Years' War between Spain and the Dutch Republic. When reading about these negotiations from today's perspective, many things sound familiar, while others are remarkably different. There was the language issue. Negotiations were conducted in Latin, partially in French, and for some parts bilingually. Then there were heated debates lasting until deep into the night. Even some physical fights between opponents are reported. To get the position of a sovereign back home was very time-consuming, when sovereign and legate could only communicate by letter, which had to travel at horse's speed. Also, the 109 negotiating parties never met in a plenary session and often didn't stay in the city at the same time. They complained about the rain, the indigestible brown bread, and the lack of space in the host cities, something which today's diplomats also privately complain about. Still, the lengthy stay was productive. It not only led to the signing of the peace, but also to friendship between enemies and to a wealth of cultural exchange. Westphalia became a model for methods of peace negotiation and mediation and began a sequence of peace congresses ending major wars. Multilateral negotiations were now more frequently used for conflict resolution. Interest in international relations and in the codification of international law grew. As French diplomacy was considered effective, these frequent negotiations eventually led to French diplomatic methods being adopted by other countries. French became the main language for diplomatic negotiations. Every other major European war, such as the Napoleonic Wars of the early 19th century and the two world wars of the 20th century, led to enhanced multilateral efforts for ensuring long-lasting peace. The first international organizations were founded in the 19th century, and cooperation in many different areas grew significantly. While all these efforts stalled during the World Wars, they were revived even more vigorously in their aftermath. Organizations such as the League of Nations, the United Nations, and also the forerunners of the European Union owe their existence to the wish for peaceful cooperation. Today, multilateral cooperation covers every area of our daily life. There are international organizations and international non-governmental organizations for almost all imaginable topics. Still, global security is far from being achieved, and the motivations of those who fought for enhancing cooperation are perhaps too easily forgotten. In Europe's oscillation between cooperation and conflict, where will our future be? I strongly encourage you to visit the Interactions temporary exhibition at the House of European History, to explore negotiations in their wider context of European history. We are extremely pleased to host some very prominent objects related to the Peace of Westphalia. We have original copies of the peace treaties from the Dutch National Archives and the Austrian National Archives. We also have an original container in which the treaty was held. And we show beautiful engravings and books telling stories about the life in the Congress cities. They come from the Rijksmuseum Amsterdam, the University Library Münster, and the Kulturgeschichtliches Museum of Osnabrück. These objects really give an insight into what it meant to be a negotiator in the 17th century.